Okay, welcome everyone to our monthly webinar at the Women's Business Center at Jedi. Oh, thank you for chatting. Hello, it's so good to be here with all of you and at least feel you and see you chat. I'm Joy Taylor. I am the webinar host for the Women's Business Center and the online learning specialist. And this webinar is all about your voice. As a business owner, your voice matters. And today specifically, we are going to be receiving a fabulous presentation. We get to participate in this presentation, I think, too, on how to unleash your presence as a speaker in order to grow your business. And as business owners, we are often put in the position where we represent our brand, we embody the brand. Our image, our ability to communicate and articulate is very important, not just in the written word, but also in how we speak. So the webinar is brought to you by the Women's Business Center at Jedi, where potential becomes prosperity. And many of you, I'm looking at who's with us, you're familiar with the organization and attend We Thrive events or have taken classes. You're already getting coaching. If you're new or watching this replay, I encourage you, if you're up in Northern California in the far north, reach out to us because we are a nonprofit funded in part by the SBA, other great funders and grants that allow us to offer training classes and workshops and to do private business consultations. We do tax preparation, loan application assistance, and advanced business development support. As an entrepreneur, you know how nice it is to have mentors and guides, and that's really what we're here to do. And it's wonderful that we have the funding to offer it for free and low cost to all of you. All right, how do you get the most out of the webinar? Obviously, be an active listener. Take part today because we're going to be doing some experiential things as well. So that's going to really help you with this webinar so you can use it right away. If you have questions, type them in the chat. So down below there's a ribbon, it says chat. Click on that and just chat question and your question, and I'll make sure to get those questions to our presenter either during the webinar or at the very end. Also, there's other controls in the bottom ribbon. If you want to mute yourself, you're all muted actually for the webinar, so you're doing great. We're going to do polls, so get ready. I'll prompt you on those and you'll be interacting with those. But you know what, just to get started, why don't you each type in your business name in the chat? And just to get comfortable with the chat buttons, let's see what kind of businesses you all have. And just type your business name in chat and it will chat to everyone. It should. Let me make sure it's all panelists and attendees. There it is. Cool. We have Nature's Glory Photography, Women's Business Center, Freelance Media Arts, Organic Designs, Tracing Full Circle Wellness, Voice Matters. Who could that be? All right, that's my cue. Let's get on. I'd love to introduce you to our presenter today so we can have full time with her. So today we are with Lori Smith, who's in the San Francisco area. And I'm so grateful that I was introduced to her and was able to get some assistance from her before I did my Audible for my upcoming book, which was fabulous. And I said, oh my goodness, Lori, you have got to come to the Women's Business Center. She is an inspirational speaker, author, educator, and coach. And her passion is helping change makers stand in their power and speak their truth. From the bedroom to the boardroom to the TED stage to networking events and more, she really wants to support leaders and business owners in coming from an authentic place and unleashing what you call, Lori, our innate and unique charisma. And when we do this, we can leave a mark on the world. So Lori's goal is to help leaders, business owners do more than communicate. She wants to help us move people. And Lori, I'm so happy you're here. So welcome to the Women's Business Center.
Thank you so much, Joy. Thank you for having me. And thank you everybody for joining us this afternoon on your lunch hour. I'm super excited. And before we dive into the meat of the material, I wanted to take a moment to tell you a little bit about me and why I'm so passionate about voice and charisma. As a very young girl, I somehow had a sense that I was supposed to be in the spotlight and to lead from the front. And as a highly sensitive person and an introvert, this idea was calling me, and I also had a love-hate relationship with being seen. And I grew up, and as a young adult, I was an actor, a teacher, a speaker, and a coach, and also working a day job in my early 20s. And there were times from my daily life to my public speaking, to my acting, to my teaching, where everything felt like I was in flow. I was vibrant and alive and inspiring students. And then the other 65 to 70% of time at that point, things felt hard. Two vastly different experiences. When I was facing the harder times, I didn't understand what was going on. I would feel like a porcelain doll, like I was sort of trapped and couldn't find my voice and couldn't think and couldn't speak. Or at other times, I felt like a deranged mannequin had taken over my body and was moving and talking, and the real me was sort of trapped on the inside, knocking on my eyeballs from the inside of my body, saying, wait, that's not how I wanted to show up. That's not how I wanted to say it. And I had studied theater in undergrad and was really applying everything that I had learned from 18 to 22. And yet I was still having these vastly different experiences. So I went back and studied with different mentors and different teachers and went to graduate school to find out what was the missing link or links in creating these two complete opposite experiences. And what I found immediately helped me and students and clients. And I had an experience with a group of students, theater students at the time, who had studied with me before I really kind of found the final piece of what I'm going to share much of with you today. And during the challenging year before I had that final piece, it had been almost like someone had dropped me into a living version of the Mean Girls movie. Theater can be an incredibly supportive, creative, nurturing place, or people can get into a scarcity place and an us versus them. And the prior year, it had been the Mean Girls, us versus them. And when I brought what I'm going to share with you today to those students, it was a night and day difference. Instead of talking about each other behind each other's backs, they were supportive, heart open, and alive from head to toe in a way that I don't think I had ever really seen a group of about 38 people. And I was sitting in the corner watching them before they even started acting, alive from head to toe, vibrant, resonating energetically, and their voices were resonating. And I thought, this is so amazing, I want more. And then my next thought was, this shouldn't just be for actors anymore. And that was the birth moment of going to work with leaders and business owners to help them make their mark in the world, have a greater impact, and have more ease and flow and less of their own hit or miss experiences while they're doing it. So that's about me and how we got here. And now I'm going to go ahead and share with you a hard truth. At any given time, over 90% of the audience is not listening to the average speaker. So what is it that separates an average speaker from a memorable or a great speaker? The answer is our charisma. It's about how we embody our words, not what we say, but how we say it. which is equally, if not more important in this day and age. Here's what I mean. Close your eyes and imagine Martin Luther King Jr.'s "I Have a Dream" speech. Feel the impact that that is having on you as you're imagining it. And now imagine that instead of being spoken by Martin Luther King Jr., those words are being spoken by Richard Nixon. Even though the content is the same, Nixon's impact would pale in comparison. You can go ahead and open your eyes if you haven't already. Maya Angelou said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." The way for each of us to access our charisma is by focusing on just that, on how we want others to feel by the time our time together is up. And then we use our instruments, ourselves, body, soul, and voice, to help take them on an emotional journey. In October 2017, Michael Krauss from the Yale School of Management published a study, and his findings were that it's easier for people to comprehend emotions from a voice alone than by viewing the person. That contradicted earlier reports that it was all about facial expressions or the content of a speech or body language. In fact, our tone of voice are the primary means by which we reveal emotions. How others feel is linked to their decisions to work with us, decisions to follow us on whatever quest or hero's journey we're on. And our emotions impact their emotions. Now I'd like you all to go ahead and close your eyes again. And we're going to take a moment to imagine a few different scenarios that involve our voice. First, imagine that you have been selected to give an international TED Talk, the big one. Your name is called. You walk out onto the stage with the lights shining in your eyes, thousands of people there in the room with you, and the possibility of millions viewing your talk one day. And as you imagine this, notice what you're experiencing mentally, physically, energetically, and emotionally. Take it all in. And then go ahead and inhale through your nose, exhale out the mouth and let that one go, and we'll move on to another one. Now imagine that you're at a networking event. Let's say around 50 people, and everybody's doing their 30 to 60-second introductions in a circle around one of those tables. And as you imagine the introductions moving closer and closer to you, again, notice what you're experiencing: body, mind, breath, energy. Take that all in. And then go ahead and inhale through the nose and exhale out the mouth again, and let that one go. And now imagine that you're sitting down at your computer to record a Facebook Live. And as people start to log on to your Facebook Live and you're delivering what you have to share with them with that green camera light looking back at you, notice what you're experiencing in this situation. What's happening in your mind? What sensations are you experiencing in your body? What's going on with your energy? And then go ahead and inhale through your nose one more time. Exhale out your mouth. And you can go ahead and open your eyes. And now it's time for our first poll. What did you experience? Was your mind racing, figuring out what you'd say? Did you experience your heart starting to beat faster or stronger? Did you get sweaty or clammy palms? Was your breathing shallow or tight? Or like me, did you experience some part of all of the above?
So we are getting a few people who are making comments. Oh, good. More and more are coming in here. We've got a variety of responses. There we go. Almost half. Looks like half
Nice.
of you have voted. It should be popped up right on your screen. So if you want to minimize any other screens, it should be right there up front and center.
Yeah. If I click on that, there we go.
Okay, and we have someone who said none of the above. So I'll go ahead and share the results.
Okay. Fantastic. So here's some good news for you that may surprise you. When I work with people, usually over half of the room believes that there's something wrong with them, or a part of us believes that there's something wrong with us if we're experiencing these sensations. When in reality, these sensations are actually tied to our charisma when we learn how to use them and harness them and channel them instead of thinking that they're a problem and fighting against them. Many people are told that you're either born with charisma or you're not. And they'll say things like Martin Luther King Jr. and JFK were born with it, and Richard Nixon and Hillary Clinton didn't. And Barack Obama has it, and I don't. In reality, we're all born charismatic. We're all born with it. And then society teaches us to cover it up and teaches us to speak with a voice of suppression rather than a voice of expression. There's this Jerry Seinfeld quote, according to most studies, people's #1 fear is public speaking, and #2 is death. Death is #2. That means when you go to a funeral, you're better off in the casket than delivering the eulogy. And many people would say that they'd prefer to be in that casket. So what happens is our systems, a part of our brain and our bodies, don't know the difference between a true life or death threat, such as a bear walking into the room, and an audience. And we might go into fight, flight, or freeze, where the amygdala takes over and our highest selves, our most creative selves, and our charismatic selves are not online if we're in fight, flight, or freeze. And over the course of our lives, we end up zeroing in on either the fear zone or the comfort zone, when there are actually 3 zones possible when we speak. Neil Donald Walsh said, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And the same is true in speaking. Our life, alive from head to toe, charismatic selves begin at the edge or beyond our comfort zone. The vast majority of speakers are focused on being comfortable when they speak, rather than on entering the charisma zone. If we're in the fear zone, we might say things like, I hate it, don't make me do it, I'd rather die. If we're in this zone, we might continually postpone, make excuses, choose other things, and refuse to speak in public. If we're in the comfort zone, we might say things like, I used to be scared, but now it's fine. People tell me that they understand me. I'm clear. In the charisma zone, we're comfortable in the discomfort of all of that sensation. And we might say things like, it feels thrilling, exhilarating, scare-citing. It's like that first big giant drop on a roller coaster. And we notice that when we present, people might laugh, cry, or jump to their feet. If we're in the charisma zone, we're more focused on the emotional experience that our audience or our listeners are having than our own comfort. We want them to be moved emotionally or to action. And they may even say that they feel seen, as if we're speaking directly to them. We guide people to feel something, and like Maya Angelou said, they remember us for that gift. So, how can we enter the charisma zone? I have 3 tips or 3 practices for you to help you enter the charisma zone. Root in a sense of purpose, and I'll break that down in a moment. Embody what's important, and breathe life into the experience. I'm going to break those all down as we move forward, and I'll repeat this slide again at the end, so you don't need to take notes now if you don't feel like it. The first part of rooting in a sense of purpose is to release our soul suckers from the responsibility of being in charge. The soul suckers are the inner critic voice that sucks the soul right out of our literal voices. They want to protect us from vulnerability, transformation, or change. And yet they have a theme underlying everything they say and do of something not being enough. There's a set that I call the nervous Nellies that will tell us things like, there's not enough time, you don't have enough time to do that Facebook Live, you don't have enough money to go travel to do this speaking engagement, or you don't have enough energy to go to that networking meeting. If we get past the nervous Nellies, the controlling stage mothers might kick in. The controlling stage mothers are the ones that will never be convinced that we're doing enough work. They suck the life out of the preparation and have us just focus on what we do, working it again and again and again from a very dry place. The imposter monsters tell us that we're not enough for some specific reason. Maybe we're not old enough, young enough, smart enough, thin enough, we don't have enough training, we don't have enough degrees. And then there's the below the belt bastards. The below the belt bastards tell us that we're not enough, period. That nobody cares what we have to say. And the key to releasing them from the responsibility of being in charge is acknowledging the kernel of truth and then releasing them from being in charge. Almost like we're taking their hands off of the steering wheel of us. They may still be there saying what we have to say, but they don't get to turn the wheel. And an example of that is with the imposter monsters. The imposter monsters might tell us, you're not enough because you don't have as much experience as the, let's say in my business or some of us in business go to pitch to corporations. And we're talking to C-level executives who are 20 years older and have been CEOs since they were 10 years old. And our imposter monsters say, you're different underneath it all. The imposter monsters see that difference as a problem and want us to fake it and try to be what we think they need us to be in order to fit in. If we can instead extract the kernel of truth, you're different, and think, thank goodness, every single one of you is different. Every single one of you has a different presence and different gifts to bring to the situation. And in this day and age, we need everybody's gifts in order to lead and to thrive in our businesses and have the impact in the world that we want to have. Which soul suckers do you have? This is our next poll. Do you have the nervous Nellies holding you back? Do you have the controlling stage mothers holding you back? The imposter monsters or the below the belt bastards? Or possibly every once in a while, you have traces of all of the above at different times.
So as people are filling it in. I just want to, there was an interesting comment in chat, Lori, from Colleen, that the only nervous scenario was waiting to share at the networking event. I want to listen to the other people, but I'm also wondering what to say.
Yeah, that's so common. Our soul suckers, they want to protect us, and they only understand what you do and what you say. Going back to that Maya Angelou quote, the most important thing is how you make people feel. And my mind does that as well. And I just try to zero in on what each person is saying and trust that when the time comes for me to speak, my presence is what is the most important, and whatever comes out of my mouth from week to week to week is the icing on the cake of sharing my presence with people. And I know when I'm in the room listening to people who really show up with their hearts, that's who I go to choose to work with. It's like, I know who you are. I saw you. I do also remember what you said, and yet it's the presence that draws people to us. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, I'm going to end this poll and share the results with everyone.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Once you have clarity on which soul suckers are holding you back, how they're holding you back, that's when you've kind of begun to shift them over to the passenger seat of the car of you. And then you can continue to root in a sense of purpose by setting an intention for what you want for them, your listeners, your audience, the attendees of your Facebook Live, and even the other people at the networking event. And here's what I mean. Setting an intention is not standing up there thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I don't say the wrong thing. I hope they like me. I hope they choose to work with me. It's something like, I want them to feel hope, empowered, or inspired. And if you imagine, let's say you're a women's health, you have a business helping people solve the mystery of what's going on with their health in their 40s. I'm a woman in my 40s. I've got some health issues, and I might be feeling hopeless, like nothing that the Western doctors are saying is helping. And when you stand up and share your passion for what you do as a health entrepreneur, your passion and your presence, I might feel hope at the end of a 30 to 60 second networking introduction. You can have that kind of an impact on your audience already, even in that amount of time. The final way to root in a sense of purpose is to guide the emotional journey of your audience or your listeners. As women, we tend to do this all the time in daily life. We listen to other people. So when you're speaking, listen to the nonverbal half of the conversation that's coming at you from people's facial expressions and their body language and their energy as you speak. When you do that, you'll make them feel as if you were talking to them the entire time. Our next tip is embodying what's important. And the ABCs are the tool that I'd like to share with you to embody what's important. When we're given the opportunity to connect with other human beings, there are 3 ways we can respond to that opportunity for connection. And most of us are trained to think that there are only 2. So you see ABC there, I'm going to do A, then C, then I'm going to come back to B, because it's helpful to digest the opposites of A and C in order to find the place in the middle. A stands for avoid. And if you'd like, you can stand up and mimic the photograph and try this on for size. In avoid, it's as if we're avoiding the vulnerability of going heart first into the connection. So we might cave our heart in, or only stand on one leg, or make a habitual protective gesture across the front of the body, or fail to make eye contact. And in avoid, it's as if the soul-sucking story in the background is you're not enough, so why bother? If you look at that central image, it's almost like that person is putting a toe in the pool of connection and trying to get the other people to go first. If you're trying it on for size, go ahead and give yourself a little shimmy shake, and then try on this control physicality. In the control physicality, the weight is forward on the toes. The chest is actually often puffed up and out like it's an old-fashioned shield. The eyes are making eye contact, and there's a laser focus and a loss of peripheral vision. And the soul sucked, oh, and there's an effort throughout the whole entire body, almost like every single muscle is doing something, even though you're not going anywhere with all of that effort. And the soul-sucking story here tends to be, you are not enough. But maybe if you try a million times as hard for this business that you've dedicated yourself to that is so important, you have a chance of making up for your not enoughness. We're taught that everyone is either aggressive or meek, powerful or powerless, when in reality, there is a place of balance or being with or we in the middle. In this place, it's the physicality of knowing I am enough. There's a balance of effort and ease through the entire body. The heart and the eyes are open to the world. It's as if we're sending ourselves out through our heart while breathing other people in through our heart. And we send ourselves out through our eyes and also receive everything in our entire span of peripheral vision. I'd like to do another poll here. When it feels off, when you're speaking and having one of those hit or miss experiences like I described having at the beginning, are you more prone to avoid that withdrawn, caving in place? Are you more drawn to control where there's an overabundance of effort? Do you catch yourself bouncing back and forth between the two? Or are you not really sure what's happening? And we've got our answers coming in.
This is great. Thanks for all the polls, and thanks everyone for being present and responding. It's always nice to inquire within yourself, but also just kind of to share. And once again, just a reminder, if you have questions as we go along, you're welcome to put it in the chat, and we'll make sure to get to those during or at the end of the webinar. All right, I think we got most people in, so I'm going to go ahead and share the results.
Nice. It looks like we have a pretty even spread there. Some people chose avoid, some control, some bouncing back and forth. And that often can depend on the situation, and some not sure. And I love giving homework assignments. Should you choose to accept it, one of my favorite homework assignments is to do an inquiry in your life. And it usually takes either 24 hours if you've got a good range of experiences in 24 hours, or some people choose to pay attention for a week. Noticing, where do you catch yourself in a void that you may not have noticed? Where do you catch yourself in the control physicality? And what is it costing you to show up in a void or to show up in control? And then if you want to take it a step further, in the following week, invite yourself into that balanced physicality in one of those situations and notice what's different. Fantastic. All right, moving on to our final tip, breathing life into the experience. And there are three components to breathing life into the experience that most of us don't do when the stakes are high. And in fact, it's partially because the world, the Western world, is teaching us not to do these things. The first is fully embracing both the words and the silences between them. When we're not, when our soul sucker is in charge, our speaking can go a little bit like this. The message, silence, they say, is the voice of complicity, but silence is impossible. Silence screams. Silence is a message, just as doing nothing is an act. That's how our soul suckers want us to do it. The world right now is not very comfortable with silence. We're bombarded with our cell phones and noise constantly coming at us. And because our soul suckers only understand what we do or say, and they're coming from a perspective of not enough, they're telling us that we have to keep talking and fill every single second to eliminate the possibility and outrun other people's boredom. Unfortunately, that can tend to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Fully embracing both words and silences is more like this. The message. Silence, they say, is the voice of complicity, but silence is impossible. Silence screams. Silence is a message, just as doing nothing is an act. This is the speaking version of music, having silences between the notes. Or art, the white space is what reveals the image. By embracing silences, people have a chance to intellectually and emotionally digest what we're saying. They digest in the pauses. Once we have those silences, we can move on to the next part of breathing life into the experience, which is nourishing our bodies with breath. Breath is actually our fuel for speaking. It's the breath that carries our voice and our emotions across the space to others. So I'm going to do a demo of saying a word with no breath in my body and then with breath in my body. Here is it without any breath. Chocolate. Chocolate. The sound of my passion for chocolate carries more when I have breath fueling it. And the final way to breathe life into the experience is to actually breathe the images to life. Using all of that air nourishing the sound of our voice, it's taking a moment to see or feel or experience the image as a speaker. Rather than being 6 steps ahead, thinking of the word we're going to say in 10 seconds, if the word chocolate were to come out in my networking introduction, I can say it like I did before. No air in my body, chocolate. I can have air and I can be seeing the black and white letters, CHOCOLATE, chocolate. Or I can be tasting and savoring chocolate as I say it. When you do that as speakers, and when we do that as speakers, our audience feels and experiences the image that we're saying. We end up getting deeply present in our own bodies and savoring each word, and then they savor and go with us for every single moment toward that emotional end goal that we have for them. So here's a review of the 3 tips: rooting in a sense of purpose, embodying what's important, and breathing life into the experience. And now let's go back and close our eyes. And again, imagine that you've been called to give that TED Talk. This time, you're rooting in a sense of purpose. As you see the bright lights shining on you and feel the hubbub of the thousands of people in the room, you're focusing your intention on what you want for them. Is it hope? Is it possibility? Is it to inspire them? Is it to wake them up? And then you're looking at their faces and having a nonverbal conversation. Notice how that's different. And now inhale through your nose and exhale out your mouth. And now imagine yourself again at that networking event. You're rooting in a sense of purpose. Your body is in that be physicality where you're balanced and being with everybody. And you're breathing as it comes around the table almost to your turn. Trusting in what you want them to feel and trusting in your presence. And now inhale through your nose and exhale out the mouth. And now imagine that you're sitting down to shoot your Facebook Live. You've got the green light on you. You're seeing some of the people checking in for your Facebook Live. And you may even be envisioning the faces of the people that are logging on to experience your Facebook Live. You know what you want them to feel. You've shifted that soul sucker over to the passenger seat. You're nourishing your body with breath and embracing silences and feeling every single image that you say. Notice how this is different. And then go ahead and open your eyes and come back to this moment today, feeling yourself in your chair. And it's time for our final poll. How was imagining it that time different from the first time that we had you imagine those three situations? Did you feel more grounded? Did you feel more expansive or energized? Did you feel both more grounded and expansive? Did you feel more nerves or sensation? Or did you actually feel more of all of the above, the nerves and the expansion and energy and grounding? Nice. We've got about 9 of 14. A nice range again, grounded, expansive, grounded and expansive, more nerves, all of the above. Nerves or sensation. Nice. Very nice.
Looks like some improvement.
Yeah, and this is to kind of lock it in for your bodies. That's what it can mean to harness all of that sensation rather than resisting it. You've got a lot of sensation that's almost grounding you into the earth, or that sensation is creating the expanded, energized version of you, or both. All of the above. Wonderful. I think this might be a good time to pause and see if there are any questions. What have you got?
I don't have any questions at the moment, but does anyone have a specific question or an upcoming event and you want some feedback and support? You know, Lori, you talked a little bit about the pausing and the importance of pausing, and I know you have so much you share about pausing and emphasis and pacing. Do you want to offer any other kind of tips around pauses, pacing, and emphasis or volume when we speak?
Nice. So I'm going to start with the pausing. There's often a series of embracing that pause or how it works for people. And at first, it feels very uncomfortable for about 90% of the people that I work with. Some people, about 10%, hear, oh my gosh, I'm allowed to pause. I don't need to do it the way everyone else is doing. And they've got it from day one. For most people, it feels uncomfortable. Like it might feel if you ask me to put down my iPhone and have it sitting on a table right next to me and not touch it. Or if I've accidentally left that constant stimulation of the iPhone at home when I go to lead an event. It's uncomfortable at first. And then it starts to feel comfortable. It starts to feel nourishing. It starts to build confidence. And then once it becomes comfortable, there's this world of mastering the pauses so that we are so comfortable in it, we're utilizing it to create the emotional journey for the audience. So I might be telling a story about a dark time in my life. And instead of having the same length pause as I do when I'm telling a joke, I might say it was a very dark night of the soul and leave the audience sitting in that image before I move on to, and this is how I came out the other side and it was all amazing. It looks like that might have sparked a few things. Comments or questions?
Yeah, here's one. This is great. Thank you. I find for me that I have the most difficulty when I'm under a time constraint, like 45-second introduction. Any tips?
Yes. The temptation of our soul suckers, and because this tends to be the way the majority of people are doing it in a 45-second introduction, we try to get everything that we could possibly say to convince people of our value into that 45 seconds. That's impossible. There is not a person on this webinar that can get every description of their value into 45 seconds. You're all too valuable. So picking a nugget or maybe 3 small nuggets with a lot of space and showing up fully connected and present with the audience. And the trick to doing that is really to think about it like this 45-second introduction is the appetizer. I'm the meal. So I'm giving them the appetizer, and the right people will come for more. And if you're in a networking group where you go back again and again and again, you're giving one appetizer this week, a different appetizer the next week with different people, and the right ones will go forward because they've got a nugget of some kind of, that's what you do, or that's how you help people. And your presence is like all of the taste in the appetizer that makes them want to come to you and do a connection or come to you and ask for more details.
That's so helpful, Lori. There's a few more good questions and we're getting closer, so I want to make sure that we answer others. Marie asked, does the angle of the video matter? Meaning this.
Yes.
My camera low and high, each has its own problems.
Yes. Joy, you may have answers to this as well. I have a great friend who is a videographer. Higher is supposed to be recognized as a little better. It can match the lighting. And I don't always do it because I'm a little bit of an eccentric. I have it below where I am right now. I just tend not to be worried if there's a double chin or a waddle. I just kind of don't care. So it's easier for me to just kind of go for it. than if I'm worried about the angle. And yet most people would recommend you do a little higher.
Yeah, and I would recommend try both for yourself. I just, in general, anytime you're about to do more video, record a short portion or the whole thing for yourself and watch it and just evaluate yourself and experiment a little bit before making a choice. That's always good. Okay, we've got some real-time advice wanted. All right, Shanta has an interview this afternoon. Shauna's interviewed often on summits and podcasts and YouTube channels. And the host didn't include any questions. So she doesn't know what they're going to ask, right? She's about to go live without a framework. Any ideas?
Yeah, I feel motivated to share another tool that I didn't mention this time for rooting in a sense of purpose. And it tends to work in these kind of surprise moments. So when the questions come to you, they're going to be surprises. And that is to call in an ally, someone real or imagined, living or passed on, and imagine them standing behind you with a hand on the backside of your heart. It works because it's an image. So you can walk into the interview situation with the ally already there. All of you can kind of imagine it and feel it right now. It does something viscerally and energetically that has us kind of trust ourselves and not feel as alone. Like that person is there with us and we're channeling our ancestors' wisdom. And when the question comes, drop your mouth and inhale. And all kinds of ideas will come flooding in. As you inspire air, you'll inspire ideas. So, two-part answer.
And I know Shanta and her work, and she's brilliant and has so much to give and has been teaching for years. So I know that with or without a so-called framework, there's this knowledge of a vast, work of material. And I just would add, for any of us as business owners, the more we know what we know our material, the more comfortable and easier it becomes to be spontaneous and interact and do interviews.
Yeah. Can I give one more answer?
Sure.
Remember that you're interviewing them as well. I learned this a lot in the acting world. Most actors are walking around trying to guess what the director wants from them in order to be hired, instead of walking in knowing, here's what I have to offer. Let's see if we're a match. That can also help shift it. You're interviewing them to give your gifts and your wisdom fully and freely. And remember, you're not Oliver begging for tuppence in the corner. You're a unique and gifted individual. And we tend to forget that when we're interviewing for a job. We don't have to take the job, yet when we go into the interview, we forget.
Right. Now, and this is an interview. She's an expert being interviewed on like a podcast or something.
Okay.
But the same thing feels real true when we're introducing ourselves as the appetizer at a networking event. We're seeing if we're a match, if we're speaking to people that might want to work with us. Okay, couple more questions and then we're going to go in a comment. I did just want to say that it looks like R. Freeman said, in cinema science, a camera above you looking down you psychologically makes you an inferior subject, vice versa. The camera below you creates superior, people are looking up. So my advice would be as equal as possible, but that's my philosophy, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I may have intuitively known it. It's a little low, I think, for where I am, but it may be part of why I like it is I'm so much a fan of the B physicality, which is the equal. I may have accidentally chosen the camera angle that says that. So thank you for sharing.
Well, and I want to add, because I interview a lot of people on Zoom like this, that as much as possible as the host, it's also a good idea to make your face a similar size to your guest and be aware of these types of things. But once again, that's you watching what you're doing. Just as we listen, we kind of watch. And okay, Lori, you're amazing. We're getting close to time here. Tara Gardner said, thank you. I don't think I've ever noticed this before. However, I experienced in the word yeah that you spoke a moment ago when responding to the last survey, that you had set an intention and that intention was met.
Wow. Wow. I love that. In theater, they used to have us do whole improvised scenes where we were only allowed to say yes or yeah or no and convey what was going on. Mm-hmm. So you've gotten to the point where you're hearing whole meanings in a sound or a word. Fantastic.
Nice. Well, Lori, gosh, charisma zone sounds good to me. And coming from service, having the ally on my back, that was powerful. You gave us a lot of great stuff, including pausing and pacing. Is there anything you want to end with, an encouraging tip or thoughts?
Ooh, reminder of the homework assignment to notice where in your life you're in A, B, or C. And if the breathing really called to you, you can do the same kind of an assignment of noticing where in your life are you breathing luxuriously and fully, and where are you possibly holding your breath or taking breath in and then spitting it out. And if you are wanting more help finding the charisma zone, I've got a free download for you. It's called The Way Out is Through. It's a powerful 8-minute speaking warm-up. It's my voice guiding you as if you're warming up in the morning or you're about to walk out somewhere, taking you on a walk on the whole entire vocal presence path. So what we covered today and more. And in order to do that, I think Joy has pasted this URL. Scroll down to the bottom of that page and enter your info in the box on the bottom right-hand corner. And then you can, of course, unsubscribe at any time should you choose to.
Nice. Yeah, so the hyperlink is in the chat, and that's wonderful. I love this idea of 8-minute speaking warm-ups. Sometimes we forget this is an instrument and it needs a little tuning and support and warmth, and that's excellent. So I look forward to that.
Awesome.
Thank you, Lori. A ton.
You're welcome.
Yeah. And wow, I think in the future it'd be fun to just do some coaching. Have you like live help some people with coaching, because that I learned so much from you when you were able to listen and reflect, and you've given us a lot today as well, so appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been an amazing way to spend a lunch hour.
Oh, pretty. Yeah, I think so too. La 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 la. All right, and if you want more amazing ways to invest your time and invest in your business, please become more a part of our community at the Women's Business Center, because we really are that, and it's so fun. If you can show up virtually, great. If you can show up in person, we love that too. So there's a couple neat things happening. It's all available at e-jedi.org. But we are having Thursday a Dream Big and Fund It event, and that is happening in Weed. The monthly We Thrive in Reading is coming up, and the topic is super simple self-care for busy boss ladies. And then the webinar in July is solid steps to increase your visibility. And so today we talked about the courage to be visible. And we're going to go further in this webinar and really talk about some tactics and strategies for building relationships and other steps you can take to get more visibility around your business, your brand, your products. All right. And we're getting thank you. So you're welcome, Laura, and all of you who came here. Really great to see you. It's 1 o'clock. Ding, ding, ding. The lunch hour is up. Please drop by the Women's Business Center. Let us know if we can support you. e-jedi.org. So thank you, and thank you, Lori.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.